Okay, so this is a recording to help you apply for TRAC account. So once you've had a look on our Cardiff and Vale University Health Board website on our jobs page and you've seen something that you'd like to apply, I'm going to talk through now with you how you would go about applying online. So if you go onto your internet provider or your search engine and type in Cardiff and Vale University Health Board jobs, it'll then bring you up with the following screen. So this is our jobs board, which displays all our current live vacancies. When you go onto the page, first of all itself, it'll give you a little bit of an introduction, and it'll also to Cardiff and Vale University Health Board, and it'll also give you a video there celebrating the last 70 years of the NHS within Cardiff and Vale. When you scroll down, you'll see that our jobs are set into the following sectors. So we've got nursing and midwifery, which would be nursing roles, obviously midwives, healthcare support workers, dietetic assistants. So any sort of nursing or assistant roles would be kept within that sector. Healthcare services, so that would be our laboratory, maybe support workers, or it would be technicians, pharmacy. So any healthcare science services under that sector. Administrative services, that would include admin and clerical roles and managerial roles. Medical and dental, so that would be medical, so any doctor posts, and dentistry there with dental, so that would be nurses or dentists. We've also got allied health professionals, the next one, so that would be physiotherapists, podiatrists, any of our therapy roles and support services. And we've also got our apprenticeships there rather. So any live vacancies that we've got at the moment, which are apprenticeships, they'd be under that sector. There is normally a seventh sector here, which would say support services, which would be for our estates and facilities team, any support services there. So portering, housekeepers, catering, maintenance assistants, they would be housed under the next sector there, which should be support services, but obviously we haven't got any live at this particular moment in time today. But these are updated daily for you, so they can change at any time. So please do keep reviewing them regularly. So when you know which sector you're interested in, if you click into that sector, and it will then give you a selection of all the current jobs that we've got under the admin and clerical, for example, on this post, on this sector. So once you've had a little look through and there's something there that you would like to apply for, click into the advert and it will give you further details. So I'm just going to click into this one for me at the moment because I've created this one just for the purposes of training. So it will give you the details of the job title, the banding, the salary, whether it's permanent or temporary contract. It'll give you the base, so where you'd be expecting to work. And some posts, depending on whether they're admin and clerical or if they're medical or hospital based, you may have hybrid or some remote working there. But the medical roles, nurses, doctors, they tend to be obviously on location because they are based in the hospital or clinical settings. So the first part of the job advert, you'll notice it mentions caring for people, keeping people well. So that kind of just gives you an overview of Cardiff and Vale University Health Board and obviously our values and behaviours. When you go down, the job overview gives you a quick summary of the job and the department and where you'll be working. Main duties of the job as you go down, so that gives you an idea of what you'd be expecting to do in the role. So your duties and responsibilities, an overview of that. We've then got working for your organisation. So again, a little bit more information on Cardiff and Vale University Health Board. And then we've got a detailed job description and main responsibilities. So you'll see that that's just been summarised with a quick paragraph to say that we've got a job description and a personal specification attached within the supporting documents, which you'll need to review. It does summarise some of the qualifications for us. So at a glance, we can see that to carry out this post, essentially we'd need 5 GCSEs, grades C, A to C, which are essential, and then desirable and NVQ level 3. It's telling you about the experience, the skills here as well, which are required. And when you scroll down to the bottom towards the advert, it actually gives you the detailed job description and personal specification here. So those details that it's just outlined above, we can go into more detail in a moment. The first thing I would suggest that you do before applying for any of our posts, at the bottom of the vacancy, there will be the recruitment contact details. So for further details or informal visits, contact. Normally there is a name and a number here for you, but obviously as this is a training post, just to show you a flavour of how to apply, there is no phone number on this one, but normally there would be a phone number and you'd be strongly encouraged to ring the department, introduce yourself, ask a little bit about the job, and that also gives you a little bit of a foot in the door and a foot up against the other candidates who may have not introduced or asked for further information. So not only is it giving you information on, is this role actually for me? It's also giving you that introduction to the manager so they can look out for you when they're shortlisting. Just for you to be aware, when managers do shortlist, they won't be able to see your personal details. So no name, no address, nothing that will be able to identify you personally. But obviously, if you've had that discussion and said, I've worked here previously, I've been to this school, they'll have some sort of idea when they see that you know your previous details of education and qualifications and so on. So once you've gone through everything, I would say have a little look at that JD and personal spec there, the job description and personal specification. So I'll just open this one on a separate screen. So again, this is just used for training materials. This isn't an actual job description and personal specification, but it's just something for you to be familiar with when you do your application. So you'll see that you'll have the post title, the band and the department, and where your department sits within the directorate, and the base as well. So where you'd be probably based to go to work, whether that be hybrid or whether it actually be in person if it were the hospital. So the job description format. So first of all, at the top, it gives you a little bit more information about Cardiff and Vale, our values, caring for people, keeping people well. When you go down the job description, we've then got a job summary or a job purpose. And again, this gives you an overview of, you know, the reason for the role. What is the purpose of this role within the organisation? You go down then to the duties and responsibilities. So this gives you a bit more of a, I suppose, a clear picture of what you'd be expected to do in post. So some of the duties and responsibilities that you'd be carrying out. So you're able to look through those at your leisure as well. And then at the bottom of the job description and personal spec, you've actually got the itemized personal specification. So these fall under essential and desirable criteria. We've got qualifications, experience, skills, and other on the left-hand side, and then essential and desirable for you to see exactly what you must have to be able to apply for this job and obtain an interview. So you'll see we've got essentially here, we need GCSE grades A to C, experience of working in a busy office environment, experience of providing excellent customer service, I can't even speak now, excellent communication skills and IT skills. And what you'll find is that you'll be scored, points scored for shortlisting on this. And then the desirable criteria will just bump up those points. So that will really cut you apart then from the other applicants who have applied. You must meet all these to ensure that you have to get an interview. Okay, so if you don't meet them or you only partially meet them, that's not to say you won't be interviewed, but obviously you'll be scoring less against other applicants who may be able to perform higher. So once you've looked right through and you're quite happy to apply for this job, go back into TRAC and you'll see that there's an Apply Now button. If you click on that, it will bring you into our TRAC database, which is our recruitment database. And this is the system then that would guide you through the recruitment process. So it does the application for you. It'll notify you when you're shortlisting, when your application's being shortlisted an interview. If you get accepted for an interview or offered for an interview, your details will be on this portal. And then right the way through, if you are successful to offer and to starting, this is the portal that you'll use. So you'll see that it's given you a summary again of the job here with all the details, okay? And then underneath, it's asking you to start your application via two methods. We can either sign in if you've got an existing TRAC account, or you can create an account on the right-hand side if this is the very first time that you're signing in. So you can pop your email address in here, okay? And then it'll ask you to verify a link that it sends to your email address. So go into your email address and verify that. When you click on the link, it'll ask you to complete your account. So it'll ask you to create a password. Okay. So you can create that. Okay, and it tells you underneath whether it's a poor password, moderate, and you can have password advice if you're not quite sure. It's then asking about you. So you can put in all your details in here. So I'm just going to make this up for a moment. Okay. Country, United Kingdom. It's then going to ask you for your address. Okay. So you can put in your address. Now, I did actually summarize some training materials earlier on. So I may just pop in some copy and pasted information that I had earlier on that I created. Okay. So you put obviously your correct address in here. Okay. And then it'll ask you for your telephone number, your mobile, and the house, if you've got those, a landline. So you work your way through the application, completing all the fields, and then create an account. And then it says, welcome, Andrea Jones. You are now signed into your new account. Okay, so that would obviously be personalized to you and your own name at the top there. So when you go down, it will then ask you a series of questions before you complete your application. So are you currently an employee of Cardiff and Vale University Health Board? So yes or no. And are you a British citizen with the right to work? Or if not, you've got a selection there that you can select from. So I'm just going to put yes, I'm a British citizen with the right to work in the UK. One of the main things I would suggest looking at as well is that if you are not a UK citizen, and you're looking for the right to work in the UK, obviously go on the government website to ensure that you have the correct right to work before you proceed, because part of the recruitment check, the employment checks, will be that we need to check your right to work in the UK, and obviously that you've got the correct working status. So then you can go down once you've made your selection, and then I have agreed to read the privacy notice. Obviously, I'm familiar with that, but I would suggest you click on the link and read it through. And once you're happy with that, you can continue. Okay, so then you'll see that the application has come up. So we've got your post title would be here, and then it says draft here. So at any point now, you can save this application and return to it later should you like to, if you didn't want to do it all in one sitting, or you can just go ahead now and apply. So it asks you, first of all, when you go down the screen, about your personal details. So if you press Start Section and Open, and then you just need to go down and check that everything is correct. It asks you your preferred employment. So I'm happy for full-time, part-time, flexible, agile working, whichever. And when you've done this section, you press Save and Next. Now it's asking for a mobile and a home number for me. So I'm just going to pop anything in there a second. Okay. Obviously, you'll have that completed correctly in yours because it won't be a training one. And then Save and Next. So then it's asking you then, are you related to a director or have any relationship with a director or employee of an appointing organisation? So if you're related to anybody within NHS Wales that has a director status or an employee of an appointing organisation, you need to declare it here. So I'm just going to put no, Save and Next. Then asks about the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act. So obviously, because we are healthcare provider, we're exempt from the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act, which means that we are entitled to know if somebody has a criminal record, because that may obviously impact whether we're able to offer the post or not. Okay, so you can read that through at your leisure, and then it will ask you then, have you got any unspent convictions and or any unspent conditional cautions? So I'm going to say no to that. If you do, you just need to make us aware. Okay, it's not to say that you won't have the post, but obviously we just need to consider all factors during the process. It's now saying that I've completed the questions in this section, and I must mark the section as complete when you're happy with your answers. So I can start the next section once I've pressed mark section as complete. So ensure before you move on to the next section, you're marking the previous as complete. So then application questions. So I'm going to start this section. qualifications. So it's going to ask you for your previous qualifications. And don't forget, when you're looking at this, it's important to refer back to your job description and see exactly what they're asking for. So even if you've got, say, for example, a degree or an NVQ or something, make sure that you're still putting what they've asked for in here as well, because that's what you'll be shortlisted against. So you could put GCSEs, for example, maths, English, science, Welsh, or whatever you had, okay? And then you can just put in, you know, whatever the grade is here, okay? And then asking for 5, so I'm just going to put that in. Oh, sorry, typing, not looking what I'm doing. Okay, so once you've put all your qualifications in here, so that would be any courses you've done, degrees, you know, foundation degrees, anything at all like that, anything that you've left school with, it can be absolutely anything, as much or as little, you know, the entry-level qualifications right up to doctorates, PhDs, okay? So then save and next. Then asking you, have you ever worked for this organization? So yes or no, so I'm going to say no. And now it's asking for your most recent employer. Okay, it needs your employment history. So I'm going to quickly go back to what I prepared earlier, and I've put a previous employer here. So I'm just going to put, this is obviously just copied and pasted from training materials. You will need to put in your real employer's name here. The employer's address, so we can put in whatever their address is. Okay, so your job title, so what were you? In that previous job, what were you? So I was administration supervisor, for example, and you can say I started in January in 2001, right up to date, so March 23. Okay, and the reason for leaving, so you can then, I've just put on here, reason for leaving is to pursue and progress my career within the NHS, but obviously you can put in there whatever your current reason is for leaving. It asks you then for a brief description of your duties and responsibilities, and this can form part of the shortlisting criteria as well, because when people look through and shortlist your application, they will look to see what you've done previously to see if you've got those transferable skills to bring to the new role. So I'm just going to go back to my training materials. I'm just going to copy and paste this because I prepared this a little bit earlier. I'm just going to bring it into the track here. So it just gives an overview of the previous tasks and duties that you did. It may only be a couple of sentences or a couple of paragraphs. It doesn't have to be this extensive, but it needs to give a brief overview of what your previous role was comprised of, okay? So then we're going to save and next. If you have other history as well to add there, I should have noted, you can underneath, okay? So if you've only been somewhere for 18 months, we're going to need at least the last 5 years employment history from you, so you can continue to add that in using the add tab, which was just before this screen. So your supporting information. So this is where now you need to go into your personal specification, look through all the job duties and responsibilities, look through the qualifications, the experience and the skills, and really sell yourself. So tell the employer about you. Why are you suitable for this role and what skills you can bring, and why you can make a real difference in the role. So I've already previously put together a supporting information statement. And this is not to say it needs to be anywhere near this length, okay? But I was just trying to give a comprehensive overview of what can be included. So, you know, you're talking about your employability skills, your experience from other roles, and obviously qualifications, and put them all in here. Okay, now this can be as much or as little. What I would say is obviously the more you have, don't waffle on, just make it clear and concise. However, make sure you include everything that's essential to the role. So once you're happy with that, you can save and next. And on each section, it will tell you the maximum number of characters. So if you think you're putting too much in, it will stop you if you do paste too much in that box. Then asks you about the Welsh language. So can you speak Welsh and understand Welsh? So I cannot, no, unfortunately. Can you read Welsh? No. And can you write in Welsh? No. Save and next. Obviously, if you can, you'd click yes. Further questions. So the questions in this section are customized to the post for which you're applying. Are you currently working for this organisation on a bank basis only? For example, you don't work for this organisation in any other capacity. So no, I don't work for you on the bank, and I don't work for you in any permanent post. Would you like your interview to be in Welsh? So no, I'm happy to have that in English, and save and next. Now it does give you the option in the next section to upload your CV. Just for you to know that we don't look at the CV in shortlisting, so it wouldn't be beneficial for you to upload your CV. That this isn't going to be looked at. It's obviously a facility that's on this TRAC website because there may be many different organisations, not just the NHS, using it, so that they offer possibly that somewhere else. Okay, so we don't want that one. Markers section complete. Okay, so it's asking mandatory to fill in the CV. So if you've got it, you can upload it, but this is a little bit of a waste of time, unfortunately, because you won't be shortlisted or scored against this. So you might just want to upload a blank document and then save that. And then once that's loaded, we're able to mark the section as complete. Then we go on to your references. So if you start this section, we're going to need the last 2 years employment history from you for your references, and any gaps must be accounted for. So if you had some time off, traveling, starting a family, whatever, we'll just need to account for any gaps also. So let's open this section. Okay, so the referee's title. Okay. And then the referee's details. So okay, so their surname and first name and their first name and surname underneath. The referee's organisation name, so I'm just going to put NHS, and their job title. Okay, so I'm just going to put okay. And how do they know you? They should be your previous line manager. Obviously, you can't have a reference from someone you just worked with on the same level. It would have to be someone you're reporting to in an official capacity, so your line manager. You can put their address in. You can put their mobile number in here. You can put their telephone number, but recruitment will contact via email. So it has to be a professional email address. So for example, something with wales.nhs.uk, something with .gov for a government. We wouldn't be able to accept Gmail, Outlook, Hotmail, BT Internet. It has to be an official email address for the company that your referee works for. Then asks you, can the referee be approached via interview? This selection doesn't really matter because unless you're interviewed and successfully appointed, we're not going to be contacting your referees before interview. So this section shouldn't come into play really. Then you just need to say, when does this referee cover? So this would cover, for example, I think since 2001 to date. So March. But obviously if you've only been there 18 months, you'd put that in. And then you'd add another here to give you the full 2-year previous history. You'd have to go back again to make sure you've at least covered until March 2021. So what name will the referee know you by if it's different? So if you for example, John Lee, but you go by Lee, then you need to put that in here, and any reasons why your name has changed. So you can save unless you need to add any previous employment history here. Okay, and then the good thing is with this system, it will throw up any errors. So if you haven't satisfied one of the fields, it'll ask you to go back and amend. So I will fix it now. And I'm just going to put any address in there for the moment. But obviously it's asking for the address of your employer or the current organisation, which is fine to add in there. But as I said, we're not going to write to them. Our first port of call is going to be sending them an email request. The only time we would go to the address option is if we were really failing getting an email address from them. Okay, so then save. Okay, so it said that those questions are done. And then you can start the last section. So if you go up and just Mark this one as complete first of all, just to make sure that each section has been fully completed. Then it says about equal opportunities. Okay, so as I said, it doesn't gather personal information for the manager to see, but we do monitor equal opportunities. So obviously we can improve and ensure that we're providing a fair and just service to all. So you can start the section for this one. And as I say, all the sections here that you fill in for this part are not divulged to the manager at all. It's just for monitoring purposes. So open each section. So it's going to ask you for your date of birth. Okay. And then it's going to ask you for your gender. And then marital status, ethnic origin. Okay. And obviously it describes everything that you can put here. And then save and next. Then it asks about any disability. So under the Equality Act 2010, it says the definition of disability is if you have a physical or mental impairment that has a substantial and long-term adverse effect on your ability to carry out normal day-to-day activities. It also gives you there some government information for you to check to see if you think you may have a disability that you'd like to declare. And it also says that any reasonable adjustments can be put in place should you need to attend the interview, I don't know, on a ground floor level, or if it needs to be via Teams. So there are reasonable adjustments that can be put in place there as well. So it asks you then to confirm whether you consider yourself to have a disability, yes or no. And then save and next. Okay, the next part asks you about the digital identification verification service. So if you are successful at interview, so if you are shortlisted and you're successful interview and you will be appointed into the role, obviously pre-employment checks will come into play. Before you start in any role, we need to ensure that we've checked and verified your ID and address verification. We use an online system to do this, which is compatible with a chip-enabled passport. So many of the passports in the UK and part of the EU will have a chip symbol on them. If you have a chip symbol on your passport, you will be able to use this type of service rather than having to go into one of our locations and attend a face-to-face interview where someone will physically need your documents, photocopy and scan them into the system and verify that they're true originals. So it says here, do you have a passport in date? Yes. Also asks you for a work share code. So if you have come to work within the UK and you have the right to work from the government and the Home Office, you will be provided with a share code. So it's asking you again there if you have that share code. So you can put yes or no. Yes is obviously a requirement that you would need a share code because you'd have to confirm your right to work in the UK. So if at this stage you haven't got that share code, you would need to reconsider submitting your application at the moment until you've spoken to the government or you've put your application in to obtain that share code. So save and next. Gives you some information as well about your passport details there. And then it asks you, how did you learn about this vacancy? And this obviously just gives us an idea that we're targeting audiences on NHS jobs or if you've been to a jobs fair. So it does give us a good understanding of where your application originated from. Save and close, save and next rather. And then you've got the declaration at the bottom. So this is just to confirm that the information you've declared is true and complete, and that you agree that any deliberate omission, falsification or misrepresentation in the application form can be grounds for rejecting this application or subsequent dismissal if employed by the organisation. So you agree to the declaration once you've read all that through and save. And then it's asking you to finally mark that section as complete also. Okay, so everything should be green. You can have a quick scan up, make sure that you've completed all those sections. If you want to read through anything, if you want to complete anything again, this is the time to do that. You can now submit your application, view or download. So if you're quite happy and you want to submit, click on Submit Application. So then it says confirm submission of application, saying please ensure that you've checked your answers as you cannot edit them once the application's been submitted. And are you sure that you're ready to submit your application? So yes, I've gone over it. You know, maybe you've saved yours and come back, reviewed it again. That's fine as well. But for the purposes of this training video, I'm going to say yes, I've checked my answers. Just waiting for the acknowledgement. So then you've got a green banner at the top of the screen which says you have submitted your application for, and then it obviously gives you the post title of whatever you've applied for. And then it'll give you an itemization again of the advert and your application history. Now, as your application progresses, so when the advert closes and your application's been sent over to the recruiting manager for shortlisting, it will be noted here. So where it says submitted, there'll be another branch off here to say shortlisting or interview or offer. So TRAC, this portal here, is going to be what you need to do or what you need to check really for the navigation and the outcome of your application. So that's just a really quick overview walkthrough of how you apply using TRAC. Further details obviously can be found on the website. So if you go onto Cardiff and Vale University Health Board, there are some further information, hints and tips as well on there for you. And you can also return to us if you did need any further information. So that's everything for the moment. And as I say, you can get in contact if you do need anything further.